So there you are, you're at your family fun group type of thing, and you've got a bunch of other kids, and there's your little kid, and they're not doing the same thing as the other babies are doing. And it's getting you a little bit concerned because you're pretty sure by now they should at least be rolling, if not crawling. So why is there this delay occurring? And more importantly, can manual therapy assist with this developmental delay? Developmental delay, it's one of these things that gets us all concerned because we're always comparing our kids to other kids. We look at the dog can walk, why can't my kid walk? And so it's always in the back of our mind as to why is this occurring. My name is Christian Flotter. I'm a chiropractor up here in Brisbane, and thank you for joining me today as we talk a little bit about how manual therapy may be able to assist in development with your child. See, there are different reasons as to why we may experience a degree of developmental delay, and some of these ones could be tied into syndromes, for instance, or it could be tied into nutritional deficiencies. If they're not getting adequate nutrition coming in, it's like trying to build a house without having any bricks. It makes it very difficult to do that. You can get some development happening, but that final touch, it's not quite there. And then we have one little subset that does tie in to movement. See, we use movement as a part of generating development in our brain. Think about this. One of the first things that we do when we're born is eat. We jump on the boob and get a bit of breastfeeding happening. The movement of our lips, of our jaw, it drives stimulation. This driving of stimulation, it's what helps to develop the next little bit. And so we use our own stimulations from these primitive reflexes to help drive different parts of our brain to actually start activating. And then as they activate, we start to turn those primitive reflexes back off again because they can sort of get in the way of what we want to actually develop. And we go down our developmental pathway. Now, what if we've got something that's disrupting that particular developmental pathway? Well, this is where one hypothesis as to the development of developmental delay can come from. What if I take my hand and I put it behind my back? As I grow up, I'm going to start using my other hand a lot more. And that guy there, it's not really going to get much attention. As a result, the part of my brain that's associated with knowing where this thing is in space isn't going to develop as well. Now, what if that part of the brain needed that stimulation coming in order to grow that particular part? Well, good news is most kids, most people have this wonderful process known as neural plasticity occurring. And that's where our brain is able to reconnect different pathways to try and get that same action happening once more. Now, not everyone has that availability to them. Not everyone's able to quite do that. And as a result, we end up with an impairment in that particular point's development. Now, what if that aspect of our development was right at the very start of our developmental processes? Let's think. If we've got the very beginnings of our development, okay, and we think about this one in terms of progressions, if we've got the very starting points of our development, one of the first things that we start doing is improving our head positioning. We start being able to hold our head in the horizon so that when we move side to side, our eyes stay level. It's very important because we need to have that visual input to help drive the next particular thing. That next particular thing may be rolling. So our rolling, we tend to have a reason for this. We kind of go, you know what, this is great, but let's have a look. Oh, look at that. There's a whole other thing back here. That's very interesting. Oh, and look at that. I've now moved to a different place. This is now providing me with a different source of information, which is stimulatory. So we've taken this stimulation and it's driven us to the next point. The next point, we kind of go, you know what? I don't want to see this one from laying on my back anymore. Let's sit up and have a look around. So we get to a seated position. We start getting into a crawling position. These movements drive more brain development. After crawling, we start to pull ourselves up to a standing position. From that standing position, we can start cruising along furniture. And then we get to that point of going, this is one small step for man, one giant leap for baby kind. And we don't need to balance. We need to balance. We don't need to hold on to be able to balance. And that is where we start to see the biggest drive of brain development occurring. Why is that? Well, there's this wonderful little thing, and look, it gets most people down, and it's known as gravity. See, we use gravity once we are standing up to activate all these little muscles in our spine, which drive stimulation up into our brain. See, being upright and walking, it's actually quite tricky. We need to be constantly balancing ourselves. We need to be making sure we don't lean too far forward, we don't lean too far back. We need to have that right interplay between the two different parts of our system. And if it's not quite working, this then can disrupt our drive for development. So development can get influenced by balance issues, by development. What is going on? Could there be something in that system that's disrupting that flow of development? And this is where manual therapy starts to come in. See, there are some research articles out there that do talk about the impact of manual therapy. A few of these ones, they're non-randomized or they're small case studies that do demonstrate changes occurring over time. Now, these changes, they do put them down to being an improvement in the stimulation that's coming back in again. And now, why does that stimulation have an effect? Well, we are looking at a couple of different aspects to this one. We're looking and seeing a change in their sensory motor integration. Inputs that are coming in are getting better interpreted by the brain. So that arm that was back here, if we start getting that movement through it, it starts to become apparent to the brain and the brain can start utilizing it better. We're able to provide a neurological stimulation. This stimulation is able to help activate and drive different areas of our brain to improve normal neurodevelopment. Improve that neurodevelopment, and you know what starts happening? We start improving in other aspects of our development as well. But what about tone? You know, we always talk about tone. What is tone? Well, I have spoken about tone previously, but in a nutshell, if we were to take this little towel here and use this one to demonstrate, if I'm the brain over here and I'm the body over there and I've got good connections happening, when the brain sends a signal, the body reacts to that one pretty quickly. However, if I've got low tone, when the brain sends a signal, it takes more stimulation to get that same reaction occurring. Now, also we could have high tone. If that tone is too high, it's already getting activated by the signals coming through. So this can also lead to changes in what we'd expect to see in regards to a person's development. So what then could we do? What would get done? Well, if you were to bring your child who you've got some concerns regarding their development to a health practitioner or a health professional like a chiropractor or a physiotherapist, osteopath, the first thing that needs to be assessed is to see if it is a type of developmental delay that would fit within the paradigm that we need for improvement. We need to assess, is this a nutritional thing? Is this a syndromic thing? We need to rule out those potentials because that may impact on our ability to get the results that we are actually looking for. Once we do that, we need to then assess whereabouts are they in their developmental pathway and what could potentially be going on? Could there be a restriction in motion that's leading to that loss of stimulation? Could it be an environmental issue where the baby is in an environment that is not promoting the next stages of development? You know, I do see this one quite often. The older sibling, they like to help the baby a lot, and as a result, they kind of do everything instead of letting the baby actually figure things out as well. So that could be a part of this going on. That could be a part of this as well. Good old siblings. So that's what we want to be looking at. This is a part of how manual therapy may be able to assist in cases of developmental delay. Now look, I can't say that it's going to help with everyone, but this is one of those situations where we have a pretty good understanding as to how it could impact. We just don't have the data to support, to show that it does have that impact. But if you've got concerns, you're more than welcome to reach out and we can discuss things and see how manual therapy may be of an assistance to you. Thanks very much for listening. See you again next time. Bye now.